Welcome to Red Hot Communication, where we answer questions like, are you fire, ice, or too nice? Our shows focus on helping you become an extraordinary communicator, all the way from the boardroom to the bedroom. I'm your host, Brenda Williams, and welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us. And I'd like to introduce Brett Deister, my co-host. Brett, say hello.
Hello, everybody. I am Brett Deister, and I do my own podcast called Digital Coffee Podcast, where I talk about tech, marketing, and gaming, and it all fits together, I swear. But anyways, specifically about this show is that it's designed for all you out there, all you lovely people, because you're all lovely in your own little ways. But also, we want to, give you some tips and tricks for all you busy people out there. Now, I'm pretty sure you're like, that's me, because I know we're all busy. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give this podcast some actually really tangible ways of how to be successful in your personal and professional life. And everybody wants to do both of it. They want to be successful in both ways. So, get ready for this. This is going to be a great show. And also engage with us. Email us. Tell your comments, concerns, questions, epiphanies. We'll listen to it all and we'll try to answer them all. But anyways, what's on the show timeline for today, Brenda? What we're going to talk about?
Well, Brett, thanks for being here. Let me just add, Brett's here to kind of help make this a little more fun. I get so serious when I talk about this stuff. So he's got the tough job. He needs to help me hit pause and entertain you a little bit. So good luck with that, Brett.
I come with the jokes.
So today's podcast is focused on removing hidden obstacles to your success. And this is part 2, but we're going to do a recap from the first podcast so that all of you new joining us can kind of jump right in. So let's get started. For the last 20 years, I've coached, consulted, and mentored thousands of individuals. And over time, I heard a lot of their stories about their successes as well as their challenges. And I started to notice a common theme, and it all tied back to the ability to communicate and relate to others. It doesn't matter if you're a leader trying to inspire the people below you, or if you're a manager working directly in the trenches with your team, trying to create loyalty and respect. Or if you're just one of those employees that has to deal with the manager. You all have to communicate to be effective in the business world. And then let's not forget about being home. What happens at home? You have your children to deal with, your husband and wife, your family. And we can't pick our family, right, Brett?
Well, I've always wanted to, but it just never happens. I'm like, can I pick a new one? And life goes, nope. And I'm like, all right, fair enough.
Well, I say I'm from Rhode Island, where the loud Italians and the crazy Irish people live. So I learned about this stuff firsthand growing up. And I learned the hard way. You can all learn the easy way with all the tips and the tools that we'll share with you. But this is why I'm so passionate about communication, is not only did I learn at a young age some very bad habits. We grew up in an unfiltered world where we expressed ourselves without even thinking twice about what you thought about it. And we didn't worry about our tone, our volume, or how we affected others. And unfortunately, those bad habits came with me into my adult life. And it took me a little while to recognize it wasn't everybody else's problem. It was mine. So it's my personal passion to master the art of communication and to be emotionally intelligent and to share it with the rest of the world. Because I've seen firsthand, not only in my life, but in the lives of all of the people I coach, the people I've mentored, and the people I've consulted with, how crucial it is to your success and your happiness in life and in business. So today we're going to be talking about removing your hidden obstacles, things that you don't really see. We have our conscious thoughts when we're very awake, very logically thinking. And then we have our subconscious thoughts we're not really truly aware of at all times. And those thoughts actually drive our actions more than we realize. And until we can really get a grasp on understanding the validity of that, we are not able to be truly successful. Because these energy blocks come in hidden forms. Their beliefs, their stories we've created, they sound really good and logical. And we believe them to be true. But we never really stop to think, where did I get these beliefs? Why do I have these habits? And why do I think this way? So as we're going through this, I'm going to share some real stories with you of people that I've worked with and coached. And I think you'll relate to some of them. These are stories about people that wanted to get ahead in life, that started getting stressed out in their jobs. Can anybody out there relate to that?
Nope. There's just weird people out there that just always get stressed out.
And they don't even know why. And it can be changed because we create stress in our own mind. We are really in control of our thoughts. And when we take time to redirect those thoughts and how we are thinking about things in life, we can change everything. So what do I mean by that? That's kind of a big, long, in the wind sentence. Like, what does that really mean in real life? Let's really tie that back to some theory. I'm going to skip over the limiting beliefs and assumptions. So you need to watch part 1 of our podcast to hear about the first 2 energy blocks. And it's really, really important. So go ahead and subscribe to our podcast and look for that. But today we're going to talk first about the interpretations we make. And I'm going to share a business and a personal story with you. So we can tie this into what this really means, why it's important to even think about, and how it can change your life. So first of all, you need to know what an interpretation is. An energy block is something that's hidden. We're not seeing it. And if we don't pay attention to it, we'll never see it. And it really can cause our lives to go in a direction or on a path that sometimes we don't want to go. So if any of you out there are having challenges in life, think about them as we're going through these energy blocks. Think about how you could tie this back to your current challenges and obstacles that you're facing. So let's start with an interpretation. What is an interpretation? Well, that's a word most of you have heard about. So this will make sense. This is one of the easier ones to understand as far as the definition. It's an opinion or a judgment that you create about an event, a person, or an experience, and you believe it to be true. I talked about the filters that we have when we're communicating last week. Filters are how I hear you. When Brett says something to me, I'm interpreting what he said based on my knowledge, my past experiences, what I think is right or wrong. Maybe I think a certain approach should occur. And I'm thinking about all that while he's talking. Sometimes I'm thinking about my answer and not doing active listening. And that gets us into big trouble. Have you ever done that, Brett?
No. I've never tried to persuade someone to say something I wanted them to say and actually successfully done it.
Well, we're going to help you master that. However, when it's an interpretation, it's how you are receiving the data. And so often it's not what the other person means. So when you can learn the skills to provide active listening and ask clarifying questions and acknowledge and validate what they've said, feed it back, clarify, those are skills that make a big difference in your world. Because interpretations get us into big trouble without us recognizing it. So I want to share a story with you. Jennifer's story. Jennifer was a client of mine, and she only came to me after she had started working for quite some time, 70 hours a week. She was stressed out, she was having anxiety attacks, and she couldn't handle the pressure anymore. She was having issues at work. Her workload had become too big, she wasn't enjoying the work, She felt disconnected from her boss and other people at the office. So she was pretty unhappy. And she wasn't sure if she wanted to stay or leave. Now, I know there might be a few of you out there that are having challenges at the office. Maybe not to that extreme, but you might be able to relate to parts of this story. So when Jennifer and I first started working together, I introduced her to these energy blocks. And we started looking at what was really going on and what her belief was, her interpretation of what was going on versus the reality of what was really going on. So we start challenging our thoughts. So this is how it went. When you look at an interpretation, again, it's an opinion or a judgment that you create about an event, person, or experience, and you believe it to be true. So Jennifer had interpreted that her boss didn't really care, that he wasn't all that engaged, because every time she went into his office, he started multitasking. And she's not the only person that I coach that has experienced this. How many people multitask these days?
Well, effectively none, because we can't actually really multitask, but people try, and they fail.
They do try. And some people actually think they're really great at it. So what do you think when people are multitasking? What's your interpretation of that?
They're not interested at all. They're just thinking about other things that need to get done, and they're not really there.
How does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel like I shouldn't really say anything. I should just go, all the time and just, agree, because, why would they care?
They don't care. And if they don't care, how does that relate to how they respect you and appreciate you?
Well, it'll make you assume that they just don't care about you at all, and they care about the work and not about how you're doing. So,
yeah. So it's funny because sometimes assumptions and interpretations, it gets like kind of a gray shaded area. Well, I've had people say, well, is it an assumption I'm making or is it an interpretation? And sometimes it really just depends on what your past experiences have been. So how we interpret what they're doing is based on our beliefs. So, for example, I like people to look me in the eye and have a conversation. And I believe when people are multitasking, they're not giving me their undivided attention. And I really do. My first initial thought is, well, that's kind of rude. And I know a lot of you can relate to that. It's kind of rude. Now, how many of you can relate to doing it to people?
Pretty sure a bunch of people. I've never done it. I've never.
Are you sure?
Okay, maybe I've done it a couple times.
And I've probably done it. But I catch myself and I realize this is rude. So for many, many people, they're going to interpret it as you don't care, you disrespect them, and they'll take it personal. I'm going to challenge those of you that say, yeah, that's me. I'll take it personal. To challenge that next time it happens. Because in many cases, it's not personal. It's how the other person treats everybody. They don't realize that they're being rude because in their beliefs, it's okay. Or they're one of those people that are so stressed out with such a heavy workload, they don't think they can get it done without multitasking. It might have nothing to do with you. They might think you're an amazing person doing a great job. Matter of fact, they might think you're doing such a great job you don't need 100% of their attention. Now, I know some of you believe, hey, that's how I think. That's how I interpret it. Because I know my boss is busy. I know he's got a million things on his plate. I know he just can't handle it all. And it's not personal. And I don't let it bother me. Now look at the energy difference. If you think your boss is rude, disrespectful, and doesn't appreciate you, how are you going to show up at work?
Not having a fun time. But, I'll just feel like, why try type of a thing.
Yeah, and studies have shown when people feel unappreciated, a lot of them leave their jobs. So for those of you that are in a leadership role that are doing this, hit the pause button. And recognize how you might be affecting others. And for those of you that are on the other side of the fence, you have two choices. A, You can change your interpretation by challenging it, not taking it personal. Or B, you can try to get that person outside of their office, get them to coffee, get them to lunch, ask them when it would be a good time to get 100% of their undivided attention. And do it in a nice way. Do it from a caring way as to how much that would help you be so much more successful on the project you're working on. And things can change when you start asking for those types of things. But if you make the interpretation in the first mindset of they don't like me, they don't appreciate me, they're disrespectful, why do I work here mentality, it changes your path in life. Jennifer had to change her thinking in order to move into a role that was exciting to her. And when she challenged that interpretation about her boss, it changed everything. She was able to get promoted. She was able to do the things that she loved to do. She was able to share the workload with others, other departments. And she had interpretations around those departments. You know, she thought that those departments, they wouldn't want to help or support her. You know, they were busy doing their own workload. And so she hadn't even tried to approach people to help her with her workload. After I challenged her interpretation and role played with her on how to go about approaching these other teams of people, she was able to change the dynamics. These people came on board. Matter of fact, some of them got excited because they liked some of the stuff she was working on. It taught them a new skill set. They were able to do some cross-training. It gave other opportunities to people in the office. And it created some cool dynamics. She built some amazing relationships by doing this. But again, if she'd stuck to her old story, they won't want to help me. And if I ask for help, I'm being weak. I'm showing that I can't get things done because I have this old belief system that asking for help is a weakness. Amazing what can happen when you change your thoughts. So she ended up staying at that company. She's in a happy place. And her and her boss meet every day. Their dynamics are completely different. So what would your interpretation have been? Would you take it personal? Would it be hard to let it go? Would you be the one that would have that conversation, that difficult conversation with the boss or the other groups? Or would you hold it in? Maybe start having a grudge. Any of you grudge holders out there?
It's not healthy.
No, it's not healthy. When you hold a grudge, it only hurts you. But it's shocking. I mean, when I coach people, Brett, I hear so many stories. And I get to hear what's really happening inside people's minds. And it's fascinating to really discover how people think. And for myself included, when you stop and take the time to really discover what am I really thinking? Because we're not usually thinking about what we're thinking. We're just reacting to situations. And when you stop to think, why are you reacting that way? You can challenge those thoughts and emotions behind it. So for those of you out there that are saying, well, how do I tie this into my life? What does this really mean? Think about this. Have you ever thought, so-and-so doesn't like me?
Probably a few people have said that too. I mean, people don't like each other for some odd reason sometimes.
Yeah, well, sometimes we interpret they don't like you.
True, and sometimes they actually really don't too.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes it could be true. Maybe they don't. But how often do we create that in our mind and it's not real?
Oh, probably quite a bit.
And then what do you do with that person that you think doesn't like you?
You just don't like them back.
And you avoid them, right? So how many of you have associates at work that have rubbed you the wrong way, and either you think they don't like you or for some reason you don't like them and you've been avoiding them? How does that affect your career? Not in a positive way. So I've had clients say to me, my son is just not interested in doing his homework. And I had a woman come to me after a speaking event. Actually, she sent me an email. And she told me that when I was speaking about these energy blocks, it was life-changing for her. Because she used to be really frustrated with her son. She felt that he wasn't applying himself. She felt that he didn't care. And she was like pulling her hair out over not getting him to do his homework. And she started taking it personal. She was really frustrated. And she said, when I realized I was interpreting things that way, and I decided not to take it personal and approach my son in a different way, I realized he just didn't learn the way that I learned. And the way the classroom was teaching him wasn't working. So I found some new ways to school him, to tutor him. I took a new approach, and it changed the relationship with my son. His learning became much more effective. His grades increased. They no longer were arguing. The frustration was no longer in the household, and their relationship got so much better. Now that's a life-changing experience. It's something so simple that we would never see if we didn't take the time to stop and say, what's another way of looking at this? What's another perspective? Sometimes we're so stuck in our old ways and our old stories of what we believe to be true, we don't take the time to think about another perspective. So I challenge all of you, reach out to your friends, other people, several people, when you're challenged with something, and say, how would you view this story? What's your perspective? What's your interpretation? What do you make of this? Now, you got to be careful with that. I'm not saying you listen to what they would do, but with curiosity, you try to understand all those other perspectives and viewpoints that are out there in the world. Because what happens in our lives, both personally and professionally, when people don't do the things that we want them to do, or the way we'd like them to do it, we get frustrated. And this happens in personal relationships all the time. And at work as well. It wasn't done to my liking. And in order for us to have happiness and success, we have to take a moment to recognize not everybody thinks the way we think. They're not going to do it the way I would normally do it. And let's take a chill pill. Let's take a chill pill, Brett.
I don't want to.
Well, sometimes we have to. Because when we don't want to is when we most need it, right?
But it's too cold outside right now. I don't want to chill.
Oh, it's not cold. We're in sunny California.
I don't know. It's kind of raining today, so it's a little cold.
Well, not as cold as it is back east.
Fair enough. But I grew up here, so it's cold.
So ask yourself as you walk away today, say, how would I interpret what Jennifer's boss was doing? How would I have reacted to this situation? And send me your emails. I'm curious to know. What are your interpretations around it? And your gremlins that we'll get to in just a moment. And most importantly, in your own world, in your own life, where do you think you are making interpretations, an opinion or a judgment that you create? Judgment is huge. Actually, I do an exercise with my clients around judgment. And I say, write down every time you make a judgment in the next week, just jot it down. One sentence. It'll be shocking to notice how often we judge not only ourselves, but others. It's really fascinating to look at that with curiosity. Because when we're judging others, we're looking at what we think is right and wrong, what we think they should or shouldn't be doing, whether it's how they dress, whether it's how they look, whether it's how they do something. We're judging. And it's very unhealthy. It really comes back to bite you. Because let's just face it, the rest of the world is not going to change for us. So judging them is not going to help us in any way. It's part of my energy leadership program. When you stop judging others, you release a lot of pressure and a lot of frustration out of your life. So journal around that. Give that a shot. So, here's a question for you. Brett, your boss says, Brett, I want to see you in my office first thing on Monday morning. What's your interpretation?
What did I do? I didn't do anything. Why are you yelling at me?
That's so funny you say that, because you are with the hundreds of other people that I've surveyed. And what kind of thought is that?
That's a negative thought.
Yep. And that's almost everybody's go-to zone. Now, mind you, the tone is part of what made you think that. And most people don't like being called into the boss's office. But there's a very small percentage of people surveyed that will say, wow, I'm going to get a promotion. Wow, I did something good. Or hey, maybe there's a new project for me. Most people don't go to that zone. It's, oh, what do we need to talk about? What did I do wrong? Your gremlin starts creeping in, your inner critic, which we're going to talk about in a second. Here's another good one. These are really simple little examples. After several attempts, you do not get a return phone call from, you can say your boss, your client, or your friend. And this has probably happened to some of you. I know it's happened to me, especially with text messages these days, an email. Several attempts, you don't get a call back or an email back. Or a text. You pick. What's your interpretation?
I actually will go to it's probably busy. I'll probably just leave it at that because I really don't know. I mean, that's one where I'm kind of like a little bit more of a probably busy. They'll probably get back to me. I'll follow up within a day or so.
That's a healthy way to look at it. And that is another, it's an answer I get, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's even 50% of the answers I've gotten. So that's the healthiest answer because it's not personal. Most people are busy. Sometimes they didn't even get your text or your email. But how often have we taken it personal and think, oh, why haven't they gotten back to me? So here's some of the other answers I get. Oh, maybe I did something to upset them. Maybe they're unhappy with me. Maybe they're trying to avoid me. Oh, they don't like me. Our interpretations get us in trouble. First, it's just picking up the phone and saying, hey, how you doing? I sent you an email. Did you get it? Sometimes we'll just mull it over, especially in personal relationships when you're dating. So when you're in the dating world, you kind of look at things differently. You play that cat and mouse game, right?
I hate those cat and mouse games.
Most people hate those cat and mouse games. But what happens when you're playing the cat and mouse game in a relationship in the beginning and you send a girl, a woman, a text message and she doesn't respond? What goes on in your mind?
I usually just go, probably isn't interested, probably is dating 5 other guys because that's the law of abundance is now kind of clear with the online dating world, and I kind of just go, whatever. Yeah. I mean, I've done it before where I've like played it over and over in my head. I'm like, this is just pointless because I could have 50,000 different scenarios, and most of them would not be true. So might as well just go with the obvious, not interested, and then just move on from there. Now,
Brett, thank you for your honest answer on that. Because I know there's many, many people out there in the dating world that can relate to that, myself included. Because before I did these, was aware of the energy blocks. You know, these thoughts would pop into my head. Not that they still don't, but now I challenge those thoughts. So, in reality of it, they could be busy too. Or maybe they didn't get your text. I mean, have you ever had someone not get say I didn't get your email or your text?
Yeah, I have a friend that I do every once in a while, and his phone doesn't update him on, like, when I reuse the app. And since he said it so many times, I just go, and if he doesn't get it, I'm like, well, oh well.
It's so true. And half the time they haven't even received your message. So what I'm going to challenge you all to do is stop and pause yourself. Next time you're making an interpretation, catch yourself. And here's a question to ask yourself a couple things. What's another way I can look at that? This was my first interpretation. What's another way I could look at that? And maybe it's they didn't get my email or text. Maybe they're busy. That's a more positive way to look at it.
It's usually probably the most correct way to look at it, too.
I know. It's the healthier way. It takes that stress out of the equation. And it takes a lot of the annoyance of dating. I mean, I've had people say to me lately, I'm not even dating anymore because it's so frustrating. I don't want to go through that game. Well, if you stop playing games and stop playing these types of thoughts going through your head, it won't be as difficult and challenging and stressful. It'll be fun because you just pick up the phone and you make a call without your interpretation. Now, in order to do that, you can't take it personal. And you got to recognize my initial thought might not be true. The next important part of that is you got to really understand what your gremlin is, your inner critic, because that plays a big part in how you're interpreting things in the first place. So, have you ever heard of a gremlin or an inner critic?
I've heard of gremlins. I know not to feed them after midnight, not to get them wet.
You mean the little gremlins that used to come from space?
Oh no, actually the movie Gremlins. There's
I
two
know.
of them. Yes.
You know the little toy one? Yeah, when I do my webinars, I put the gremlins up on the screen and I have them making their little noises.
Wogmize is like the good one, and then when you feed him and things go wrong.
It's funny. I have the good one and the mean one on my slide, and then they make all these noises. And what I say is, your gremlin can be like the cute little one. Sometimes it whispers and it's not so mean to you. But sometimes it's the nasty, ugly, mean monster that really screams loudly. And they say things like, you can't do that. It's a little voice in your head. Play it safe. Don't do that. Don't take that risk. Might not work out. Compromise. How often do we hold ourselves back in life by believing we're not capable? I've had people say to me in some of my speaking engagements, you know, I got a promotion, actually 3 promotions in the last 2 years that were offered to this lovely lady I met, and she had turned them all down because she was fearful of not just the failure that could come. She was fearful that if she was successful, she'd have to work too many hours. And then she'd have to continue to prove herself over and over again. So she let her fear stand in her way of not only tripling her income, but making more money and creating an amazing career path for herself. Because of these fears, which are directly attached to the gremlins, the inner critic. Now, how many of you are perfectionists out there?
That would be me.
Oh, that's a fun one. I must be perfect. Now, I know that you must be, working on that because we're both doing podcasts and we know we're not perfect every time we do this.
Oh, God, yes.
And we're putting ourselves out there for the world to see. So we're making progress, Brett. Right? High five on that.
Well, I mean, yeah, the problem with perfectionism is that you just never do any work because it's never good enough. And you have to just be like, all right, I'm just going to do it and see how well it goes. If it's good, great. If it's not, well, readdress and do it and try it again. You know,
and I was doing a lot of research going into this, and I watched some TEDx's on perfectionism. As I was doing my research, a couple popped in, and I found it really fascinating because, we talked last week about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset, and they talked about perfectionism, the need to strive for excellence, to be the best, to not make mistakes. And what was really fascinating to me is when you have a fixed mindset of don't take chance, don't take risk, let's play it safe, let's stay in my comfort zone, we don't need to change, the way we've always done it is good, and you add perfectionism to that, you end up driving yourself crazy. That's when you have the anxiety and the depression that can come with being a perfectionist, because you can paralyze yourself. You don't want to move forward because the fear of change, and if it's not perfect, you don't want to do it. But when you have a growth mindset, which is the mindset of let's thrive, let's challenge ourselves, let's move forward, let's try new things, new possibilities, new opportunities, and you're a perfectionist with that, then you take on the challenge. You're striving to be better, but it's from a more positive place. You're not dwelling on beating yourself up all the time, the self-blame that comes with it as much. You can get over it quicker if you make a mistake. You can be more accepting that even though I wanted it to be perfect, I recognize in reality it will not always be. So you get to control your gremlin and your inner critic along with your mindset, which was the podcast we talked about a couple sessions ago. So look up that podcast because those are important parts. All of this starts to blend together. It's really fascinating. And, then you've got people that have the statements going through their heads of, I'm not effective, I'm not smart enough to do that, I don't have enough experience. That's a big one. I've had people say, well, I didn't take that leadership role because I've never led people, I don't have the experience, I don't know how to manage a team, so I'll just stay in my role where I'm comfortable. Because that's where it's safe. And that's where that inner critic, that gremlin, is telling you, you're not good enough. Play it safe. And it's really interesting. Whenever I'm speaking to a group of people, they get really engaged around the other energy blocks. They'll talk about the limiting beliefs, the assumptions, and the interpretations, but nobody ever wants to stand up and say, well, I know I'm not good enough. We don't want to admit that because our ego gets in the way. So we don't say it to the rest of the world, but it's happening inside our head, sometimes without us even recognizing it. It's really deep. It's emotionally charged, and it's hidden in many cases. So again, you have to sit back, take time to be quiet, and challenge what's going on in your world. If there's something missing, if you're not getting what you want, one of these energy blocks are usually involved. And determining which one it is so that you can lessen the power and that you can change the way you approach life is something that will be an amazing experience. I know because I've done it myself. I've watched my clients do it. This stuff really works. And when I went 2 years ago, when I was going through my IPEC Institute coach certification, and also go back 15 years ago when I went through my own spiritual journey and did some very intense seminars, they had a gremlin exercise where you name your gremlin. Is it the self-doubt, the confidence? Is it the, I'm not attractive enough, I don't have a degree, I'm not smart enough, I'm not big enough, I'm not fast enough? What is it that's coming up for you in your world? We all have a gremlin of some sort. And when we get clear on what it is, we can tame it. We can name it. And we actually brought in things to represent it. So we could decide and make a conscious choice that we no longer needed to listen to our gremlin. And that we could change the story. And I'm here to tell you, you can change your story around any of these blocks. All you have to do is make the choice to do it. And sometimes it's challenging. Sometimes you really need to work with a professional. And you need to sit down and take some time to look at where is this showing up. But when you can release these gremlins and learn to challenge the limiting beliefs, the assumptions, the interpretations, here's what happens. Here's what's happened to me and my clients. They gain more confidence. They build stronger relationships. They get married to their soulmate. They end up moving into careers they love. Or in my case, I left corporate America and became an entrepreneur to follow my passion. Now, I had to overcome a lot of these energy blocks to do that. I was on a podcast the other day for an entrepreneurial group, and he said, how did you overcome your fear of leaving your job? Well, these energy blocks were straight in that. If I listened to my gremlin that said, You've got a nice salary. You've got a company car. You're going on trips around the world. What the hell are you doing? And I just wasn't completely satisfied. I wanted to follow my purpose and my passion in life. And I had to tame that gremlin. And I had to say, it is possible. I am good enough. I will figure it out. And when you talk about perfectionism, whoa, I've had to overcome a lot of that because as an entrepreneur, you know firsthand, Brett, you got to do so many things that are outside of your comfort zone. You wear so many hats. You take on so many new challenges. You have to really push to learn and grow. Mm-hmm. And perfectionism needs to take a back seat. So you really have to tame that gremlin. So for all of you out there that are looking to have better careers, more money, successful relationships, this stuff will help you get there. So I want to invite you to learn more. I actually have a book, The 7 Secrets to Successful Communication. I have a leadership program that you can get access to that'll help you continue this journey. And I also provide coaching and deliver workshops. So what is it that you need to get to the next level in your life and to your business? Go ahead and look up on the show notes. You'll be able to get access to our website, academyforleadershipcommunication.com, for those of you that are in business and you're interested in the business coaching and workshops and events. For those of you that are looking for career development and life coaching, you could go to yourcoachingsolution.com. Each of those sites has one has a leadership program for the business world, which is the Academy site. And the other one offers you a life development program that'll help you continue this journey. And if you read the book, which I highly recommend, The 7 Secrets to Successful Communication, you will be able to learn more about what we've been talking about. You'll get some exercises and some tools and assessments throughout this whole process that'll help you continue to learn and grow and take this to the next level. So to recap, challenge those interpretations. Look at other perspectives. Ask the question, what's another way I can look at that? And say to yourself, what is my gremlin telling me? Am I telling myself I'm not good enough? I'm not capable? How true is that? In many cases, it's false. Go out there and conquer the world. You're all capable. The world can change right before your eyes if you start practicing and challenging your thoughts. Brett, what did I miss?
Well, as always, follow Red Hot Communication on iTunes, Google Play Music, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. And hit that subscribe button so you don't miss another episode. And as always, leave a review if you want to. Leave concerns, questions, epiphanies.
How can we help you? How can we support your needs? That's what this is all about. We're not doing this because Brett and I just like sitting here staring at each other. We're doing it because we're truly passionate about helping the world learn and master this. Because I believe if we all did this work, the world would be a better place.
I've always wanted to be a master at staring contests, so...
He's kidding.
But also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube and LinkedIn as well for extra content that, well, may help you with this as well. Extra content. We all love extra content. Anyways,
well, but real true content. I mean, yes. I just want you to know, I really go the extra mile to give you tangible tools and takeaways. So when you go looking at the tools we provide, they're going to give you tips and guidelines and techniques, things that you can do to really start implementing this in your life.
And, well, that's all I need to say about all that stuff. Right. But anyways, guys, join us next week on our next episode, and you guys have a good week.
Yeah, bye.
Later.